Totally forgot I had this sweet hat. So hopefully I don't keep eating. It sheds pretty bad. Anyway, so today I was in a room and they were only talking about Airbnbs, a clubhouse room. And they only covered the pros. No one ever said anything bad or anything negative. They did do some justice to the whole running your numbers and making sure your numbers work for a long-term rental, not a short-term rental. But that's as far, I don't even call that a negative. That's more of a just the proper way to run your numbers, right? But essentially these guys were just talking about all the pros, how great it is. It's so amazing. It's so awesome. You're going to love it. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's this. But so I was in the room. I was a moderator, and I was just kind of listening. I was at the gym, and like I said, no one said any of the bad things, right? And the point is that these guys were trying to, I don't know if they were like directly trying to sell a program or what they were trying to do. They were just, I think, sharing information, but no one really shared the dark side that goes along with Airbnb or short-term rentals, right? Everyone was just sharing like all the pros. And I don't think that's very fair, mostly to people. A lot of people were just getting started and they were excited to get their first property. So the dark side, no one ever shared that. No one actually brought up the huge expense of, okay, you get this Airbnb and you got to dump like 8 to 10 grand in furniture and making it look like halfway decent, right? So that was another thing that then brought up. That was like, right? But like, so for example, right? No one brought up like huge parties, ragers, just all sorts of crazy stuff that happens. No one brought up T Grizzly showing up to your Airbnb with all his hoes and literally the whole house smelling like the whole neighborhood actually reeking like weed, right? And then you got guests that have to go in like in a day. No one brought that up. And I bring that up because that actually happened to the Sterling Heights Airbnb. There's actually quite a few funny things that have happened at the Sterling Heights Airbnb. There's been like, that was like the somewhat upsetting thing. There's been like TV shows filmed there. There's been like 3 or 4 things filmed there. There's been all sorts of fun stuff. Maybe we'll make a whole video series about the fun stuff. Because usually the fun stuff happens and in the moment it's just like, this is annoying. You know, there's people that got to go in there in like a day and maybe they're not like, you know, fans of that smell. And they're probably going to be pretty pissed, right? So anyway, but that was like one thing that they didn't cover. And I think that should have been covered because that's like a reality of handling Airbnbs and managing Airbnbs. Along with obviously the whole thing where like if something happens, if you got a leak, if something crazy happens, like half the time you have to literally fix it like quicker than as soon as possible, right? Because as an Airbnb host, like everyone cares about reviews, right? Like when you go on Amazon and you look to buy whatever, you're buying a book, right? I'm not looking at the books that have like 1 star and like 5 reviews, right? I'm looking at the things that have like thousands of reviews and like above 4.5 stars, right? So same thing with Airbnb, right? So that didn't really get covered. They didn't really talk about like the sloppiest, greasiest of the sloppiest people that end up staying in those, or the people that go out and party and come back and then there's just like everywhere, right? That didn't get covered. And I just think it should be covered, mostly in like rooms like that. And but anyway, so I think a lot of people try to sell you on all the goods of a thing and not the very bads of a thing. That was like the worst way to say it ever, but you know what I mean, right? And same thing with like really with anything in real estate, with anything in actually with anything anywhere, right? When I worked as an engineer, I would go to these colleges and sell these poor little suckers that were getting their degrees like, hey, come work here, it's great. But, right, we all know how great it is. It's great like 10% of the time, but the rest of the time you're just doing some bullshit that really isn't that great, right? It's just boring desk work or some stuff along those lines. And, not to compare it to, the things that happen in Airbnb or like fix and flips, right? Everyone sells you like all the good things, but no one sells you on the other bad stuff. Same thing with like wholesaling. No, everyone tells you like, oh, look, you can drive this sweet Lambo in like a week, but no one tells you about you getting cussed out on the phone by like every other person when you're trying to contact them because they're so mad that you're calling them, right? So, it's not just with Airbnb, it's just the Airbnb thing like came to mind, but it's like with everything, right? Everyone tries to sell you on all the pros, but they don't really hit the bad sides of it, where really for anyone to make an informed decision, I think you need to have the pros and the cons for whatever you decide to do, if it's in real estate or anywhere else. Or buying this hat, right? Like I saw this hat, like, man, that's a sweet hat, I'm gonna buy it. And I bought it, and it's really hot. Your head sweats, so that's a con. And the other bad part is like you have like white floofy stuff like all over you, and it goes in your mouth, and it's like sheds. It's kind of terrible, but it still looks cool. But no one told me that when I bought it, right? Like, same thing with this thing. But anyway, hopefully this helped. So like if you're going into like Airbnbs or fix and flips or rentals or like whatever, and maybe you're at like in a clubhouse room, or maybe you're in some guru seminar or something, just remember that you're only getting told like the really positive stuff, and you're not really getting told all like the negatives. For you to actually get the negatives, you got to talk to someone that's actually doing it, that's not trying to sell you a program. So like talk to someone that's flipping houses, that's not trying to sell you a program. Talk to someone that's wholesaling, that's not trying to sell you a whole program. Talk to someone that's wearing a hat like this, that's not trying to sell you a hat like this, right? So that's kind of the point of it. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful, and the point of this is just make sure to take in all the good, because there's a lot of good to everything, but also be aware of all the bad things that come along with whatever thing that you're going with. So anyway, have a great night. And this hat, in the few minutes I've had it on, my head is sweating, and I don't even know how much of this I have like in my eyes and my mouth. So have a great night, and I'll see you on the next one.